I'd like to call to order the August 5th, 2008 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Louisville and announce that we do have a quorum present. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the July 15th, 2008 meeting. Do I have any comments, corrections, a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
A motion from Karen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The meeting minutes of the July 15th meeting have been approved. Item 3 is selection of a chairman, vice chairman, and a zoning board of adjustments representative, which was tabled from our last meeting. And today we have all the commissioners present, so I guess we will start with the selection of a chairman. Do I have a motion, recommendation?
I would
nomination?
like to nominate Rod.
Second.
I have a motion from Joy to nominate me, second from Karen. I do accept, so do we do these one at a time, I guess?
Why not?
Yeah. So do we have any other motions for chairman? Anyone to battle it out with? Guess not, okay.
Acclamation.
All right. All those in favor then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I am the chairman for another year. Selection of a vice chairman. Do I have a motion or nomination for vice chairman? I think currently it's Jim, correct? Do I have a motion for...
Jim. I nominate Jim Gay, yes.
Jim, you're being nominated again. Would you like to accept?
Second.
Okay, I accept.
Okay. No. Motion from Joy, second from Bill to nominate Jim again as vice chairman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The next would be the Zoning Board of Adjustments, which is Bill right now,
Yeah.
correct?
And I would like to renominate Bill. Can I do
You're just
that?
renominating everybody across the board, aren't you?
Yeah.
You are getting out of all kinds of work, aren't you?
Yeah,
That's my
So
job.
is that an official motion?
It's official nomination.
Okay. I have a motion from Joy
Well, Bill
to
accept.
nominate Bill. Getting there.
Second.
Second from Karen. Bill, you do accept
Yeah.
the motion? Okay.
Yeah.
Bill is accepted. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. So I believe we have all the same
Can I vote
chairman,
no?
vice chairman, and ZBOAs. Sorry.
But I vote no.
You can vote no. Sure.
It will overrule you, but you can vote no for yourself.
Okay, so that takes care of item 3. Item 4 on the agenda is consent agenda plats. We do have a conflict for item 4A, so if there are no objections, I'd like to treat these separately and ask that Bill step away for item 4A. Item 4A on the agenda is final plat of 121 Plaza Edition, Lot 1R and Lot 2, Block A, a 4.37 acre tract, zone light industrial, located on the south side of Business State Highway 121, about 500 feet east of Main Street. Gene?
The plat has no variances requested. The 121 Plaza Edition is for a proposed 23,000 square foot office warehouse on the property.
Okay. Do we have any discussion amongst the board commission members on item 4A only? Okay, do I have a motion specific to item 4A?
Make a motion to approve item 4A as presented.
second.
Motion from Karen, second from Jim on item 4A only of the consent agenda plats. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries on item 4A. Bill? Bill, if you can hear me, you can return.
In the soundproof.
In the soundproof booth back there. Oh, there he comes. Okay.
He thought he was playing deal or no deal.
I was watching you like a watchbird.
Okay, so continue with consent agenda plats. Item 4B, final plat of Water Oak Retail Center Addition, lots 3R and 4, Block A, a 1.61 acre tract, zone light zoned local commercial located on the northeast corner of FM 3040 and Old Orchard Lane.
This plat also has no variances, and the builder is proposing to build a Christian Brothers automotive repair facility.
Any discussion among the commissioners? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to recommend approval to the city council.
I have a motion from Karen on item 4B. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from James. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Gene, just out of curiosity, what was the proposal for 4A? What were they looking to build on 4A?
23,000 square foot office warehouse.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so item 5 on the agenda, is public hearing zoning. Item 5A is consideration of a zone change request from light industrial to medical district on a 4-acre tract located at the east side of Summit Avenue, approximately 1,000 feet south of FM 407. The request is being made by the current property owner, Alpha Republic Investments Limited. This is case number PZ 20080819.
He didn't want to use it anyway.
The property is, as you indicated, on Summit Avenue, a little south of 407, and this zoning request, when we first looked at it, was had some similarities to another zoning request that you all had recommended for approval a month or so ago, and the City Council denied. You all on a 4-3 vote recommending approval, the Council denying it on a 3-2 vote. For 4 acres of medical district in the middle of light industrial area. The similarities, though, kind of stop there. That was for a use that is allowed in medical district for senior apartments restricted to age 55 and older, and providing some sort of medical programs, although for independent living it doesn't have to be nursing type care. The proposal before you tonight is for the location of a rehabilitation hospital, which, according to their information, is primarily for seniors. And in looking at the two sites, the site that was on 121 was really in the corridor between 3040 and the airport. It has a lot of distribution warehouses in it. There is a distribution warehouse currently in review right across the street from that particular proposed 4-acre development. And it's really surrounded by a sea of existing commercial industrial uses. In this particular case, yes, it has light industrial around it, but most of the uses in the general neighborhood, most of it's vacant around it. But the uses that are there, most could be allowed in the general business or even local commercial district category. The only distribution warehouse in that area is the Harcourt warehouse, which is just south of the railroad tracks. So we got to looking at what's proposed for that area. Prologis owns the biggest chunk of land in that area, east of McGee, south of 407, west of 35, and north of Grandy. And Prologis originally, several years ago, had come in with plans to build a distribution park, because that's what they do best. Most of the times you go a lot of places, particularly near the airports and in trucking areas, you see a lot of Prologis signs on distribution warehouse. They're one of the world's largest developer of distribution warehouses. And a year or two ago, they basically put those plans on a shelf and decided this was really not a suitable area for that type of use. And they now have the property on the market for sale primarily to office and retail users. The Alpha Republic property, of which this 4 acres is a part, there are They develop primarily office and retail uses. There are 3 lots platted with separate ownership at the hard corner of 407 and 35. So in looking at it, this is not an existing industrial park. There's not a strong indication that it will become an industrial park, even though it has the light industrial zoning. But there is a strong indication that this will become an area with mixed uses of primarily office and retail. In fact, at one point, before the stuff happened in Highland Village, there was a development that was proposed. It was very preliminary, but it was proposed, where most of what is out in the Highland Village, Shops at Highland Village, or whatever it's called, most of that was actually proposed to go at this location. But then the state announced that they were going to be tearing up the road, and it would be torn up for several years. And retailers just really don't like to build brand new things right on a road that's going to be under construction for several years. So the deal came up in Highland Village, and they moved out there. And they may do very well there. We don't have any way of knowing how well they're doing. But we do believe that this is an office and retail corner and not an industrial corner. So in looking at it with the people who are making the request, we feel like they're a very strong applicant, and we feel like there's a very good chance that they'll do exactly what they say they'll do. There always is the slim chance that for some reason their deal will fall through and somebody else will buy it, and you could still end up with senior apartments there, but we feel like the odds of that happening would be fairly slim. And even if that should happen, at least that wouldn't be in the middle of an existing industrial park. It would be surrounded by light industrial, but industrial users really don't like to go into areas where there's existing residential, primarily because people are going to complain about them, and they would rather stay a little further away from residential. So in looking at the two, we feel like there is a substantial difference in this particular location, and in looking at whether this would fit into that area, we feel like it would, so we would recommend approval of this zone change request. Are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Joy.
Where's the school on this map? Where's the ninth grade campus? Isn't it close?
Further down, it's across the railroad tracks, south.
So it's south of,
Which map are you looking at, Joy?
well, I'm looking at,
That one?
Yeah, it's further south, somewhere in this general area right here.
off the page? Okay.
Very, very far from where this would be?
Half a mile. They're talking about Louisville North.
Yeah, about a half a mile.
Half a mile, I would assume, because there's two big jigs in
It's
this
about
road.
1,500 feet from this property to the apartments north of Louisville North.
Oh.
And Louisville North is just south of the railroad
South of that.
tracks. The apartments are north of the railroad tracks, and they're just south of it.
But
So it's maybe 1,800, 2,000 feet south.
So are you suggesting that this whole thing might flip to MD as opposed to light
No,
industrial?
we think just the 4 acres will be MD, because the MD hospitals require medical district zoning. We think there will be some office and retail that will be medically related because of this particular location, but a medical office or medical things such as a drugstore would be allowed in light industrial. Just the hospital itself would not be allowed in light industrial.
That's a good location. Center in there with
Gene?
doctor's offices and whatever.
I know that these things aren't necessarily, obviously, pre-approved by City Council, but did anyone speak with City Council about this after the fact that something that had some similarities was voted down by the City Council, and then we have another applicant coming right back asking for...
I haven't talked to any city council members. I have talked to the city manager, but the impression I get is that this type of use in this location is something he feels the council will support.
Okay.
And what's so different about this one?
Well, this one is not in the middle of an existing industrial park. It is not in a warehouse corridor. It is not going to be housing people who will be living there for years at a time. Most people will stay there a week, 2 weeks. and the type of facility it is a, as they've described it, a 4-star hotel type rehabilitation and spa location. So it's a different type of use. I would still not feel as comfortable in this location if it was announced that it was going to be senior housing, although I wouldn't be as bothered by senior housing in this location as I was in the other location, because that is in a trucking corridor already. It is in an existing industrial park, and it does have a warehouse distributor making plans, submitting plans to come in right across the street.
And it's easy access.
Joy, I'll make a comment here, and this is not a question or anything. Think about when the state finishes with 35, or maybe I should say, when they get done with the next phase of 35. Hopefully we're all still around here, but you never know with
I'll
TxDOT.
probably be in the rehab hospital.
We all might be in the rehab hospital by then. What that corner's going to look like is going to look more restaurants, retail, office, that's what's going to go in this corner. But it's not going to go there until they get the roads fixed, until they figure out what they're going to do with that bridge.
Yeah.
And let's hope they figure out what they're going to do with that bridge.
Well, I guess this company feels pretty comfortable with.
Well, they have
that
access
curve.
off Summit. I mean, it's not like they're locking themselves down, that they don't have some kind of access. They will have access off Summit, which will get them to Valley Ridge, which realistically, if they're transporting them from Louisville or Denton, they would never go over a bridge anyway, or over 407 bridge.
And you had talked about that this is going to look more retail restaurant, and how do you know that? How do we know that? Is there anything out there from the city indicating, I mean, I know I'm actually asking. Is there
No,
anything out there from
it's
the city?
just knowing the traffic, the pattern of that corner, because I go by that corner quite often. That's probably what's going to get developed there. Now, if you ask me what's going to get developed up north of, say, McDonald's or the Putt-Putt Place or any of that, I could see storage, warehouse kind of general up there. But this particular corner, since it's completely clean, I could see somebody coming in and put a fairly large office, retail establishment. I'm not going to say that it's going to be shops like Highland Village have, but that's what I could envision in this corner.
Okay. Anything else?
Or more apartments, you know.
And there's a huge power line that also comes.
Anyone have anything else before I open up the public hearing? Although I don't know that we have anyone out there, but I will.
One question. Gene, you mentioned something about, is there a distributor that is going to be located of like rehab services or equipment? Did I hear you say that?
No, we think, and the developer thinks, that the location of a hospital there will cause other medically related uses to be attracted to people that want to be there close, either doctors that will have patients in the rehab facility, or the drugstores or specialty medical type stores would be attracted to that location because the rehab's hospital in that spot.
Which usually happens.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from the commissioners? If not, at this time, I will open the public hearing on item 5A. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item 5A may step forward, since I see no one in our audience. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion from Karen, second from Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is closed. Do we have any other discussion amongst the commissioners before we...
I just want to say I like this a lot. I think it's a good thing.
I do too.
I think it's excellent use of this piece of property that's been there empty for several years.
Since 1974.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Oh,
Never.
man with the facts.
And hopefully the city council will agree with us this time around.
Yeah, I feel like a dog has been bit. I don't know if I want to
No,
step back
don't
into the
feel-
kennel.
Don't feel bad about that.
Okay, then do I have a motion on item 5A?
Make a motion to approve or recommend approval to the city council for item 5A.
Second.
Motion from Karen, second from Bill. Recommend approval of item 5A. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 5B on the agenda, consideration of an ordinance amending the Louisville City Code, Chapter 17, the zoning ordinance, Sections 17 through 38, compliance with the regulations.
From time to time, we run across things in ordinances that are outdated. It's a good word. And when we were looking through the zoning ordinance, there had been some talk about, we'd had a request that had come before council last month, I think it was, for the old Dat's Barbecue, where the new owner wants to open a barbecue place there. But rather than using the smoker that's inside the building, he wants to build a shelter outside the building and put a smoker in that. You can't have just a open-air smoker for commercial use. It has to be enclosed in a building. So he was looking at a very small building that would house primarily the smoker and some equipment for the smoker where he could do his stuff outside. But we got to looking, and all of that side of Main Street downtown is still an abstract and has been since, sometime in the early 20th century. Plus, he was crossing two lot lines, and typically we would require a plat to be submitted to maybe make it one big lot. Although that wouldn't be required, but it would be required that he have a plat with two lots shown on it. Plus, he would have to do the Old Town Development Plan, which is the equivalent of the engineering site plan. But for a building of that size, on a lot that size, it's really an insignificant thing. It's not affecting drainage, it's not affecting fire protection, it's not affecting parking or landscaping or anything else. And he was going to have to spend probably $15,000 to $20,000 hiring engineers and surveyors and others to draft up all this city-required stuff in order to build, probably a few $1,000s worth of building for his smoker. So we took the variance request to the city council to not have to go through that process, and the council agreed and said, in this particular instance, it's really not a problem. It's not creating a problem. It's bureaucracy gone amok. And so we started looking at the possibility of maybe changing the development regulations to have a threshold where if you don't cross that threshold, you don't have to plat the property, you don't have to do a site plan for the property, if you're really doing something that's a very minimal change on the property. Right now, any change in footprint requires an engineering site plan. If the property is not platted, it's got to be platted. And you're looking at $15,000 to $20,000 to hire somebody to do all that. An example, out on 121, one of the phone companies had a small little building and a cell tower out on 121, right around where Valley Ridge comes through. The cell tower is sticking up through the middle of the electric transmission towers. The little building's been sitting there for years and years and years. Well, they're adding more equipment to the building. The building's not large enough. They wanted to add a few more square feet to the building. So this would be a building about the size of a storage building in your backyard. They wanted to add a little bit to it. Well, in order to do that, that lot was going to have a whole new engineering site plan, and everything was in compliance because it was a relatively new lot, but it was still going to cost them a lot of time and a lot of money to have that done. So we were able to go through the process where, for that type of situation, the attorney said, under the circumstances, he found some other things in the law that said we didn't really have to do that for that particular deal. The building they built still had to comply with all the applicable codes. They're bricking the building, which they didn't have to do before, and so they are having to spend a little bit of money, but the lot is actually somebody else's lot. They just have an easement on the lot, and the owner of the lot would be responsible for having to go through the platting and site planning process, although that lot was platted because this other guy was going to change the size of his building. So at staff, we talked about some options and came up with a plan that we'll be taking to the City Council to amend the General Development Ordinance and the Old Town Development Ordinance, where if you're adding to a building or if you have multiple buildings and you're building a new building, as long as it's no more than 10% of the square footage of your existing building or buildings up to 5,000 square feet, then the site plan won't be triggered unless you're doing something that does have some impact. So we would require a survey so that if there's a water line or a sewer line and you're building over the sewer line, then we're going to require a site plan because you're going to have to move that sewer line. But if you're just doing it, you're not taking up required parking, you're not affecting utilities, you're not affecting drainage, then there's really no reason to have to do that. Those rules were written back in the 80s when Louisville was growing in a boomtown condition, and it was written to try to manage all the growth that we were getting. Now we're in a redevelopment condition where we're getting more redevelopment than we are new development. So we're trying to find ways to be able to streamline the redevelopment process and take out rules that really don't make a lot of sense. Well, the rule about the platting, that you can't issue a building permit unless the lot is platted, is in the Old Town Development Ordinance, in the General Development Ordinance, and in the Zoning Ordinance. You all are not a part of the GDO and the OTDO, but anything that's in the zoning ordinance has to come through you all for a recommendation before it goes to council. So we're here tonight with a staff recommendation to remove those phrases from the zoning ordinance, the one about the platting requirement and the parking requirement, which has been in the General Development Ordinance for almost 20 years. It's in the zoning ordinance is the phrase that parking has to comply with the rules herein. Well, there are no rules herein in the zoning ordinance, but that phrase is still in there. So while we're doing a little cleanup, we'd like to remove those two phrases from the zoning ordinance, one because it has no impact at all, and the other because we need that rule at times, but we want to modify the rule, and we don't really see any reason to have it in three separate ordinances. So the zoning ordinance would be the place to take it out, because really it's a development regulation. Does that make any sense at all?
Just editorializing is what you're doing.
If you read the memo probably explains it better than I did, because it took me a little longer to write the memo than to whip through that.
Gene, so what you're saying, the people with the cell phone tower of the little building, they'll be able to increase the size of the little building without a bunch of hassle?
Right.
And the same thing with the guy with the smoker?
Mm-hmm. Without having to go to the city council to get a variance.
Okay.
And Gene, if Mr. Ferguson was here, he wanted to make sure that the value and aesthetics of the Old Town ordinances remain as is, and there'd be no change to that, to those regulations, right?
The standards would still be the same.
Okay.
And if they're doing something that does create an impact, then the way the attorney is writing the ordinance, if it has some impact, then they would still have to go through the process of the Old Town Development Ordinance in the platting. But the platting is, the state law on platting is if you divide a piece of property into two or more parts within a municipality, you've got to plat the property. Well, in the case like the barbecue place, they weren't dividing property. It had been divided 100 years ago. They were just using that property and getting a building permit. Well, our ordinance said if you're getting a building permit, it has to be on a properly platted lot. They weren't doing anything to divide the lots. If they would, then the state law would trigger that they would have to plat the property. But they weren't triggering the state law. They were just triggering a local ordinance, which for all practical purposes doesn't have that much benefit in that type of situation.
Okay. Thank you.
Part of public hearing zoning, do we have any other comments? Questions from the commissioners?
I think it's great we're doing something that's business friendly.
This is under public hearing zoning, so I will open up the public hearing for any of our imaginary folks out there that may want to comment on this.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion from Karen.
Second?
Second from Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anything else before we have a motion, or do I have a motion on item 5B?
Make a motion to recommend approval to the city council.
Motion from Karen,
Second.
second from Bill. On item 5B, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 5B passes unanimously. Item 6 on the agenda is other business. Gene?
We have nothing.
Commissioners?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion from Karen to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Second from Bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting's adjourned.